Imagine you are living 35,000 years ago, somewhere near the edge of a cold valley. The sun has not come up yet. The fire is low. The air smells like smoke, wet animal skin, and old meat. Everyone in your small group is awake, but nobody is speaking loudly, because one person did not wake up. He was breathing last night. He was wrapped in hides near the fire. Someone gave him water. Someone touched his forehead. Someone tried to keep him warm. Now he is still. And outside the shelter, in the dark, something is moving. Maybe a wolf, maybe a hyena, maybe just the wind pushing branches against stone. But nobody is relaxed enough to believe it is just the wind. You have no phone, no hospital, no doctor, no police, no wooden coffin, no church bell, no funeral home, no antiseptic, no shovel from a garage, no warm house where grief can be hidden behind closed doors. You have a dead body, frightened people, children watching, predators nearby, and a terrible question. What do you do now?
Do you leave the body? Do you carry it away? Do you burn it? Do you cover it with stones? Do you give it tools? Do you cry? Do you stay silent? Do you talk to the dead? Do you teach the children not to touch? And maybe the deepest question is this. When ancient humans faced death, did they only solve a practical problem, or did they begin creating something we would recognize as memory, ritual, and meaning? By the end of this story, death in the Stone Age will not look like a simple, dark fact. It will look like one of the moments where humans became most human. Because dealing with a dead body was not just sadness. It was survival technology. And that sounds strange until you remember one uncomfortable detail. A dead body is not neutral. To us, death often happens behind walls, in a hospital room, in a bed, under bright lights, with forms, gloves, refrigerators, and people who have special jobs for this exact nightmare. For ancient humans, death happened right in the middle of life, near the sleeping place, near the fire, near the children, near the food, near the tools, near the exact spot where everyone still needed to survive tomorrow morning. And the body created problems immediately. First, there was smell. Not instantly like a horror movie, but soon enough. A body changes. Warmth, insects, bacteria, and time begin working fast. Ancient humans did not know bacteria as a word, but they absolutely knew bad smells, swelling, flies, and the difference between safe and dangerous. Second, there were predators. Carnivores are not sentimental. A hyena does not say, "Oh, sorry, is this a private family moment?" It smells meat. Wolves, bears, big cats, scavenger birds, and smaller animals would all be interested. So the dead person was no longer just someone the group loved. The body could become a signal, a beacon, a terrible dinner invitation. And here is where it gets worse. The group could not simply move on easily. A small prehistoric band might have had 20, 30, maybe 50 people. Every adult mattered. Every skilled person mattered. The one who died might have known where water was during the dry season, or how to shape a good spear point, or which berries made your stomach angry enough to question your life choices. When one person died, the group lost more than a body. They lost knowledge. They lost labor. They lost memory. They lost a piece of their survival system. Modern humans sometimes say everyone is replaceable, usually in offices with bad lighting. In a hunter-gatherer group, that was not really true. If your best tracker died, the deer did not become easier to find out of respect. And physically, humans were not exactly built like monsters. No claws, no fangs, no armor, no thick fur, not very fast. Terrible night vision compared with many animals. A leopard would look at a human and see a nervous snack holding a stick. A dead human made the living humans even more vulnerable, because grief distracts you. Crying makes noise. Staying in one place too long can be risky. Carrying a body uses energy. Digging a grave takes time. Firewood still has to be gathered. Children still have to be watched. Food still has to be found. So, what did ancient humans do first? The first answer was probably not ritual, it was attention. Everyone noticed. A body that stopped moving in a small group was impossible to ignore. People would gather close. They would look for signs: breath, warmth, movement, a twitch, a sound. And this matters because the first step in dealing with death was knowing that death had happened. That sounds obvious today, but in a world without medical equipment, the line between unconscious, badly injured, sleeping, freezing, dying, and dead could be confusing. Ancient people had to learn from observation. They watched faces, they touched skin, they listened. They remembered what had happened before. Memory was their medical chart. Language was their emergency meeting. Maybe someone older said, in whatever language or gesture system they used, "Do not move him yet." Maybe another person remembered, when the old woman stopped breathing like this, she did not return. Maybe someone else still hoped. And this is the part most people forget. Ancient humans were not alone with death. The group was the technology. One person panicking beside a body is just panic. 10 people watching, remembering, arguing, comforting, and making decisions is a survival machine with hair. A group could divide tasks. Some stayed near the body. Some kept children away. Some watched the dark. Some fed the fire. Some prepared tools. Some looked for a place to move the body. Someone probably cried, because being prehistoric did not cancel having a nervous system. And because humans are humans, someone probably also made a terrible suggestion. Maybe we should leave him right here. Then someone else looked at the cave entrance, looked at the children, looked at the imaginary hyena buffet sign flashing above the body, and disagreed. This is where fire mattered. Fire was not only for warmth and cooking. In a death situation, fire helped mark a safe center. It gave light. It kept some animals away. It let people work after sunset. It made the dead person visible, which is both comforting and horrifying. A fire near the body might protect the group while they decided what to do. Smoke could reduce insects. Heat could help people stay through a long night of watching. But fire did not solve everything. The body still had to be dealt with. And now comes the big answer most viewers expect: burial. Yes, many ancient humans buried their dead. But we have to be careful. Not every dead person was buried, and not every body found in a cave was placed there with ceremony. Sometimes bodies fall, wash in, get covered by sediment, or are disturbed by animals. Archaeologists have to ask difficult questions. Was the body placed in a prepared pit? Was it covered deliberately? Were there objects around it? Was the position unusual? Were there signs of repeated use of a burial place? In other words, archaeology is not just, look, skeleton. It is detective work, but the crime scene is 30,000 years old, and half the witnesses are rocks. Still, evidence points to deliberate burial in multiple prehistoric contexts. Both early Homo sapiens and Neanderthals seem to have sometimes placed bodies in graves or protected locations. Some burials include tools, animal bones, ornaments, or red ochre. And red ochre is one of those tiny details that changes everything. Ochre is a natural pigment, often red or yellow, made from iron-rich minerals. Red ochre appears at many ancient sites, sometimes on bodies, sometimes in burials, sometimes in art or symbolic contexts. Why red? We cannot know every meaning. Maybe it reminded people of blood, maybe life, maybe transformation, maybe identity. Maybe it was practical in some cases. Maybe different groups used it differently. But when people take pigment, carry it, grind it, and place it with the dead, something more than move the smelly problem may be happening. A body covered with red pigment is not just removed, it is treated. And treatment means relationship. But burial was hard. Try digging without a metal shovel. You have wood, antler, bone, stone tools, hands, and patience. If the ground is frozen, congratulations, death has selected nightmare mode. If the soil is rocky, it becomes worse. If predators are nearby, you cannot spend all afternoon calmly preparing a beautiful grave while the local scavenger community updates its dinner plans. So ancient burials, when they happened, required effort. That effort is the evidence. A pit means labor. Stones mean carrying. Grave goods mean choice. Body position means attention. Repeated burial places mean memory of a location. And this brings us to another layer. Ancient humans may have used the landscape itself to manage death. A cave chamber, a rock shelter, a shallow pit near camp, a place away from where people slept, a location that was remembered and returned to. The dead could be separated from daily life, but not erased from the world. This separation mattered. It reduced smell. It reduced predator interest near the camp. It helped children understand boundaries. It helped the group move forward without pretending nothing happened. Even today, we separate the dead from the living. Cemeteries, morgues, cremation sites, memorial walls. We use buildings, rituals, paperwork, and carefully quiet voices. Ancient people had fewer tools, but the basic problem was familiar. Where do we put the dead so the living can continue? Now, here's a thing that actually happened. At Shanidar Cave, in what is now Iraqi Kurdistan, archaeologists found Neanderthal remains that have been discussed for decades. Some individuals appear to have been placed in ways that suggest deliberate treatment of the dead. One famous idea, that a Neanderthal burial included flowers, is debated. Some researchers think pollen could have come from other natural processes, like burrowing animals. But even with debate, Shanidar remains important because it shows that Neanderthals were not the cartoon brutes people once imagined. Some lived with injuries, some survived because others cared for them, and some dead individuals may have been placed in the cave with attention. That does not mean Neanderthals held funerals exactly like us. No tiny black suits, no sad violin, no uncle giving a speech that lasts too long. But it does suggest something powerful. Death was noticed. Bodies could be cared for. The dead could matter. And then we see even more dramatic examples with early Homo sapiens. At Upper Paleolithic sites like Sungir in Russia, burials included rich ornaments, beads, and carefully placed objects. Some children were buried with thousands of beads and items that took enormous labor to make. Think about that. Thousands of beads. Not 3 beads and a good enough. Thousands. Each one made, shaped, drilled, strung, carried, and placed. That is time. That is social investment. That is not a group casually tossing objects into a hole because they had extra craft supplies and nothing on the calendar. It tells us that at least some ancient communities saw the dead as socially important, maybe loved, maybe feared, maybe honored, maybe connected to group identity, maybe all of those at once. And this is where the story gets uncomfortable. The dead may have helped organize the living. A burial is not only about the person who died. It is also a public message to everyone still breathing. This person belonged to us. This place matters. These objects matter. This child mattered. This hunter mattered. This elder mattered. The group remembers. And once you have memory attached to places, objects, and bodies, you have something bigger than survival. You have culture. Culture is not just art on a cave wall. It is repeated behavior that carries meaning. It is doing something because others did it before you. It is teaching children, this is how we treat our dead. That teaching would have been powerful. Imagine a child watching adults prepare a grave. The child sees silence, tears, maybe pigment, maybe a tool placed beside the body, maybe people touching the dead person one last time. Maybe nobody explains everything clearly, because even today, adults are not great at explaining death without making it weird. But the child learns. Do not laugh here. Do not step there. Do not take that object. Do not leave the body for animals if we can help it. Remember this person. In that moment, the child learns a rule that is not only practical, it is emotional, social, maybe spiritual, depending on the group. We have to be cautious with the word spiritual. Archaeology cannot read thoughts. A grave does not automatically prove belief in an afterlife. A tool beside a body might mean many things. Maybe it was for the dead. Maybe it marked status. Maybe it was an offering. Maybe it was simply part of a mourning practice. But we can say this. Some ancient people acted as if death required behavior beyond disposal. And that is huge. Animals can react to death too. Elephants investigate bones. Chimpanzees may show distress around dead group members. Some animals carry or guard dead infants for a time. Death is not invisible to other species. But humans went further. Humans made patterns. They used tools, pigment, locations, objects, and memory. They repeated actions. They taught those actions. They turned grief into something organized. That is almost unfair. Other animals had claws and teeth. Humans had funerals. Not funerals like today, maybe, but shared treatment of death. And shared treatment of death can bind a group together with frightening strength. Because a group that remembers its dead can remember everything else, too. Where the old camp was, where the winter shelter is, who shared food during hunger, who was brave, who broke rules, who should be trusted, who should not be allowed near the only good spear because last time he dropped it in a river like an idiot. Memory is social glue, and death makes memory intense. But now comes the darker turn. The more humans cared for the dead, the more death could shape power among the living. If some people were buried with more objects than others, what did that mean? Were they more respected, more feared, higher status? From an important family? Special children? Skilled hunters? Ritual specialists? We cannot always know. But rich burials suggest that death could display inequality, identity, or social roles. The dead did not simply disappear, they could become symbols, and symbols are dangerous. A living person can say, "My father hunted here." Another can say, "Our people buried our dead in this place." A group can claim a cave, a valley, a route, a memory. Suddenly, death is not only grief, it is territory, it is belonging, it is history. That may sound very modern, but the roots could be extremely old. Once humans link people to places through memory, the landscape becomes more than rocks and trees. It becomes a map of stories. This is where ancient humans become both beautiful and scary. They did not just survive the world, they filled it with meaning. A hill was not just a hill, it was where someone died. A cave was not just shelter, it was where ancestors lay. A necklace was not just decoration, it was something placed with a body. A red stain was not just pigment, it was a sign that somebody cared enough to prepare the dead. And all of this began with a problem that was brutally practical. The body is here. The night is cold. The predators are near. The children are watching. What do we do now? So let's return to that first morning. The fire is burning again. Someone has brought wood. Someone has found stones. Someone else is holding the dead man's spear. The group has chosen a place a little away from where they sleep. They dig slowly, badly, with tools that would make a modern gardener cry. A child asks a question. Nobody has a perfect answer. Someone cries. Someone gets annoyed because grief does not stop people from being tired, hungry, and impatient. Someone looks toward the trees again. The body is placed down, maybe curled on one side, maybe covered, maybe marked with ochre, maybe given a tool, a tooth pendant, a shell, a stone blade, or nothing at all. The group covers him, not because it is easy, because it matters. And when they return to camp, something has changed. The dead person is gone from the fire circle, but not from the group.
His tool-making trick remains, his stories remain, his mistake near the river remains. His warning about that one poisonous plant definitely remains, because vomiting in the Stone Age was a memorable educational event. The group carries him in memory, and memory is how humans beat death a little. Not completely, never completely, but enough to teach the next child where not to step, what not to eat, who once saved the group, and why a certain place should not be forgotten. So what did ancient humans do when someone died? They watched, they tested, they mourned, they protected the living, they moved or covered the body. Sometimes they buried it, sometimes they used stones, caves, pigment, tools, ornaments, or repeated places. They kept predators and smell away. They used fire, language, memory, and cooperation. They taught children what death meant, even if they did not explain it the way we would. And sometimes, they turned a dead body into a point of connection between the past and the future. That is the real answer. Ancient humans did not survive because they were physically impressive. They survived because when one of them stopped breathing, the others did not always walk away. They gathered, they remembered, they made a decision. And then they carried that decision forward until it became culture. So the next time you are uncomfortable at a modern funeral, standing there in clean shoes, checking the time, wondering if it is rude to be hungry, remember this. One of your ancestors may have stood in the dark beside a fire, listening to predators outside, holding a stone tool, trying to bury someone they loved before the world came to eat him. And honestly, compared with that, finding parking near the cemetery is not the worst human problem we have ever had.